Hey everybody, it's Dr. J. Hope you enjoyed your module last week. I read through the discussion post. I saw some very interesting comments, and I think that many of you, well, last week I'm sure was very interesting, and some of you were able to identify that the Nacirema people is actually American spelled backwards, right? So when we look at some of the questions you asked to consider, would you allow your son or daughter to date a Nacirema? Would you consider their culture to be barbaric? It was very interesting to find how many of you would not want your son or daughter to date a Nacirema. And some of the rituals you considered them to be either barbaric or magic. And, it's quite striking that, in a sense, this is an example of how same thing happened to me when I first read this article. I was presented this article when I was in graduate school, like yourself, and it went over my head. Now, some of the other students, I guess they were smarter than me. They figured it out, but it went over my head that the way that the author depicted our culture, I did not even recognize my own culture, recognize American culture. And so the question is it fair to depict Nacirema culture in this way? Some might argue that it is not, but the reality is that when we view our world, our society, we look at it through this perceptual screen. We have a lens in which we interpret the world around us. And so we can use this article as an analogy for what a perceptual screen might look like. Like, so for example, if I was from another planet and I came down to visit this world, Earth, visited America, and I saw a man scraping his face with a razor. I think they called that men lacerating their faces. Would I really recognize that that's shaving? Because human beings, I'm an alien, remember, human beings grow facial hair, therefore they have to shave it off. That may not register if I'm an alien. I don't understand that culture. Holy mouth men putting needles in the mouths of people. That's the dentist. So we have to think about our own perceptual filter. Because just like an alien visiting planet Earth, looking at Americans, if we're not fully engaged with or absorbed into one's culture, and we look at it from the outside, it's easy for us to make a lot of judgments. That's what happens when we place judgments on other cultures without any understanding of that culture. And so, of course, the bag is out, the secret is out. Nacirema is American, spelled backwards, okay? And the question is, so why do we think this way? Well, the social perception model says that when we're presented with something to observe, there are a lot of different moving parts, different characteristics of ourselves, who we are, our familiarity with the target, what attitude, what mood we're in. Do we have a bad day today? Are we in a good mood? What are our general attitudes about people who are outside of our identity group? What's our self-concept? Do we have a sense of self-esteem, a sense of self-efficacy in ourselves? Individuals with lower self-esteem it's very easy for them to place judgment on other people. As a reflection of themselves, this kind of projection of their own attitude about who they are. And cognitive structures, how does our mind work? How do we process information? Reading that article, did we read through the article very quickly? And then maybe we missed some key elements that would signal to us that this is an analogy, or this is a play on words to depict American culture in a certain way. So, our thought processes. We look at target characteristics, the way in which the culture was described, and we think about just in general, we bring our own type of characteristics to perceive the target in a certain way. So all these things influence our perception, creates these filters through which we process and interpret information. Importantly, things that are barriers to us accurately encoding information are selective perception, stereotyping, first impression error, projection, and also self-fulfilling property. So, what are these? So, selective perception is basically when we already have our own viewpoint, a decision about something's already been made in our mind. And so, what we do is we perceive information, we interpret it through our belief system, through our own assumptions that we have previously held. And as a result, we also discount any other information. This explains why, politics is a prime example. In a lot of different polls, even when different parties are presented with different information, even if it's factual information, if it's logical information, it's very difficult for people to change their political party affiliation. So selective perception plays a strong role in why people do this. We look at stereotypes. These are generalizations about groups of people. These generalizations can be harmful and dangerous because individuals will begin to make decisions and prescribe behaviors on people based on some sort of norm that they believe, which could be true or not true, but one person does not represent an entire identity group. And there's research that shows within different memberships, within identity groups, there's so much variation. So as human beings, it's dangerous for us to just try and put someone in a box based on our own personal experiences that we've had with members from that identity group, or based on images we've seen on TV, or based on a belief system that we've inherited from our upbringing through family, through our community, and even from our religious background. First impression error occurs when we meet someone for the first time, and that's what we remember most about that individual. It could be we met someone, we had a bad experience with someone from a particular membership, with a particular group when we were younger, and so we hold on to that memory, and it creates a lasting opinion based on that person. When I was younger, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. There would be times when police officers would pull us over for no reason. It wasn't, so I formed a negative perception or bias towards police officers because in my neighborhood, at least on the south side of Chicago, they seemed to treat me unfairly. When I was just minding my own business, doing nothing wrong, sometimes I would just walk home from school and they want to pull me over to ask me a whole bunch of questions about my day. Now that I'm older, when I worked in a municipality, I worked alongside a lot of police officers and in partnership in different communities, and I was able to change my perceptions about police officers so that first impression error bias that I had, that was mitigated by me being around police officers at a later age, and so it helped me to realize that I had to self-check my bias, where I can't just assume that every police officer is a certain way, or I can't be afraid of or dislike police officers because of the experiences that I had with them in my interactions when I was younger. First impression error also occurs a lot during performance evaluations. When individuals, when the boss evaluates someone, when they first see you do very well, oftentimes bosses might evaluate you on either the first thing they've seen and also the last impression that they have from you. And usually all the behavior, all the performances that's in between the first impression and last impression is kind of murky and not remembered as often. So first impression can have both a positive or a negative effect. Projection, we talked about this, where we have our own beliefs and values, and we assume that other people share these same beliefs and values. And then self-fulfilling prophecy is when we have certain expectations about others, and based on those expectations, we treat them a certain way, and as a result of that treatment, we find that individuals begin to act in the way that we expected them to act, but we don't realize that it was our treatment of them that caused them to act that way in the first place. Thus the term self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, there are studies that show that when you have poor performing individuals and very good performing individuals, and they're assigned to different leaders. Leaders who are told that the poor performers are good performers, they actually treat them and reward them differently as if they were good performers. And in some cases, those poor performers, their performance increases. It becomes more positive. On the other hand, leaders who are assigned uh, good performers, but told that they're poor performers, they treat those individuals, their subordinates, like they're poor performers. And so what happens is those performers who are usually good performers, they end up not performing as well because of the way they're treated. So self-fulfilling prophecy is something that also happens at work, and it also happens often in when we look at diversity research and how assumptions made based on stereotypes for different individuals because of their race, their ethnicity, their religion, or their sex or gender, they may be treated a different way. They're given different opportunities and assimilated into jobs that people assume best fit them. And as a result, these individuals sometimes become disengaged from work, and they're not committed, and they identify less with the organization. But then those who have these expectations about them will say, hey, I told you so. But the reality is that these individuals feel like they're not being able to put forth their full potential, and they're looking for somewhere else to work or something else to do in order to do that. So I'm hoping that this activity and that discussion board was able to shed some light for you to reflect on your own perceptual filter, your own bias, which is very important as we move forward throughout the rest of this class. Just some housekeeping tips. To let you know, make sure that if you have not said hello to your team on your Google Hangouts group, you need to do that. If you have some questions about how to access it, or if you don't even know what I'm talking about, please send me an email as soon as possible so that we can get you situated. If you're on a team and you notice that you have some teammates that haven't logged on yet, or haven't gone on Google Docs or gone on Google Hangouts, reach out to them, because the first couple of projects are coming up due soon, and that's something that's important that you need to start collaborating on while you have time. So I hope you enjoyed the next module that's coming up. Enjoy your day.